morning, everyone. I'm really very honored to be moderating this panel with a key word, which is patient. It's very often the case that in these conferences, we talk a lot about patients, but they're not really present. So I have the honor of having a patient with us today on our panel and a couple other guests. And we're going to be exploring the key question, why are patients not more involved? How did we get this so wrong in helping us, all of us, fix the problems inherent to healthcare? So I'd like to welcome on stage Patricia Ripoll. She's come all the way from Spain last night to join us from Barcelona. Hello, Patricia. I'd like to introduce Juhi. Tandon, it's a pleasure to have you with us. She's a GP from the UK. And Frank, Dr. Frank from Germany. Okay, so Patricia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've been doing over all the past years to help bring the patient at the table in his key role?
Okay, thank you. You are putting a lot of pressure on me about I'm the patient, I'm the star. But I will explain just a little bit what I'm doing. Since 4 years ago, I decided to stop my work in the companies. I was working as a commercial director. And I decided to move to help the patients to be more present in all the healthcare system. Then I start in 2016 to speak about migraine, because I'm a chronic migraine. Then I start to speak about this, and it's when I realized that patients, we are not in the center. We are always saying that we are in the center, but we are not. Then I decided to start my work on this field, and then I'm helping hospitals, healthcare systems, startups, companies to put the real patients in the center. And just now, this week, I just create a foundation. It's called Visible, and it's for this, to make visible the patients and all the invisible disease. Thank you.
Juhi, can you tell us a little bit about your perspective and your background?
Sure. So I'm a GP. I've been a GP for about 12 years. I also co-founded a health technology company that is really, our mission is to empower people, patients, to take better control of their health. We use immersive technology to really bring health information to life and make it accessible and memorable. But the key thing is that we involve patients in all our creations, so we co-create with patients. And also in my GP role, since 2016 in the UK, general practices have had a contractual obligation to have a patient participation group. And the reason for that is to bring patients, give them a seat at the table, quite literally, and to ensure that the health service that's being delivered is meeting their needs and their expectations. And I've been involved in, helping to run those as well.
Thank you, Juhi. I don't know if you all heard that. Contractual obligation. I mean, this is the point we're at. We have to make contracts and force people to involve patients. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that. That doesn't make any sense to me. They should naturally be involved at all the stages to transform, to improve the healthcare system, to help design new technologies, new tools that are effective. Thank you for that. Frank.
Yeah, thank you, Lambert. My name is Frank Flack. I'm a consultant in the medical affairs and clinical study developments and also execution. I'm working more than 20 years now in this industry, mainly in the diabetes field. Here I was involved in many innovative developments. I was part of the development of the first basal insulin dosing software for patients, helping them to stay on track or to get on track with their insulin dosing. I was also part of continuous glucose monitoring developments, like the ones that the Minister of Health yesterday morning alluded to, that it is completely covered for certain ages here in on Malta. And so I'm 20 years working on this, and I learned here, and especially coming from diabetes and type 1 diabetes, is a highly individualized treatment. So there is nothing like one size fits all. So patient centricity and individualized medicine is key to this topic, right? And that's why I think also patients have to be, and my developments has been on the table to help understand the needs and also that it fits into their daily life. Because it does not fit, it will not work.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I'd like to go back to you, Patricia. Rather than, investigate in the few minutes that we have to discuss this topic as to, what we need to do to bring the patients at the table, can we think of how did we get in this situation in the first place? I mean, there are lots, let's be positive, there are lots of good things happening. There are prems and proms. I don't know how many of you are familiar with those, but actually that's just a game changer. We are finally asking the patients their perception of their treatment and their experience. It's about time, and we're collecting that information. We've also seen around the world, it's a new trend, the creation of a chief patient officer. It reminds me a little bit of what was happening in quality some decades back. The quality manager was somebody below in the organization, and all of a sudden, he was reporting, he was part of the management team, reporting to the CEO. Well, now we're going to have, chief patient officers. Is that a good thing? Well, from a visibility point of view, I think it is. But I'd really like to hand it over to Patricia and ask her, why do you think we're in this situation, and what can we do to improve the involvement of patients and the patient voice?
Yeah, I think here we are some of the people that we are changing this, because your work, it's not very common. Not everyone involves the patients from the beginning to the end, because this is very important. Sometimes they put at the beginning and they never talk again with the patients. Then for me it's clear, chief patient officer, I'm a chief patient officer with different companies, and then for me it's clear it's the key to change the mind of all the people. Because when you have a problem, you go to the best expert. When you want to build a house or you want to do something, you look for the best architect, or you look for the best, you look for the expert. Why, when we are talking about medicine, about something related to the patients, why we don't ask the patients and work together? And this is a problem, because we are thinking for the patients. We suppose what they want, because we are all the time working in the hospital, and we said, yes, we know what the patient wants. No, we are supposing, I don't know if we say like this in English, but we are thinking for the patients. And no, we have to ask the patient the real needs, and it's not easy to ask the patient. It's not like to say, hey, what do you want? No, you have to talk with them, and you have to involve in all the process, because they have to be at the same level. This is a problem. When they call patients, they call for one time, and they ask some question, and they say, okay, no, you have to explain everything and be at the same level. And the other thing, it's the patient has to be paid, because everyone in the table is paid for the job, and the patients are given their time, and they have to be professionals. They have to be prepared to be at the table. And this is another problem that we have. They call the patient and they say, yes, it's your time. Thank you for coming. And after, we are not paid, and we are not informed about the feedback, about our opinions and our things.
I love that last point about getting paid. It shows we always forget the patient's interest. Juhi, what about your experience? You're both a GP and running an innovative company. What are some of the obstacles, and what can we do to bring patients closer to us?
I think it's an excellent question, and I really loved your response because it hit on so many things that resonate with me. One of the things you said was, we look to experts when we're creating a house or whatever, and why don't we do that with patients? And I think that we are well and truly, we should be into the era of nothing about me without me, right? Which obviously means the patient. And it's funny because when I present some slides, I have a picture of a doctor with a speech bubble saying, I'm the expert in healthcare. And then I have a picture of a patient saying, well, I'm the expert in me. And actually that's really important. And of my two hats as a GP, we are trained actually, and I remember this from over a decade ago, when we're talking to patients, we need to elicit their ideas, their concerns, and their expectations. And that's really important because you can have a patient sitting in front of you and you're told they're there for their diabetes check. And so you could just start with, okay, let's talk about your diabetes. Wrong. It's, how are you? How can I help today? What's on your mind? It's starting with open questions. Let the patient speak. You listen, because only then will you meet their needs and their expectations. The worst thing is, you treat their diabetes, but actually they're worried about cancer, and they've got a mole that they didn't tell you about because you didn't invite a comfortable, consultation for them to be able to say that. So I think on that side, it's really important. In terms of being paid, excellent point. I think one of the reasons that hospital policies and decision makers don't necessarily involve patients and bring them as a stakeholder is twofold. One is it's quite complex because how do you ensure that you're getting a ethnically and socially diverse population to represent the views, and also the ethics behind, do we pay, don't we pay? Obviously we should. How much do we pay? Is there a standard? Where is the standard? If you talk to pharma industry, you talk to all these different companies, they don't all follow the same, charities, they don't all follow the same standard. So that's one complexity. The other complexity is, it takes a lot of time, and if you're involving multiple stakeholders, I think the key decision makers are worried that a consensus or democratic, result will not be attained very easily, and that will further delay, whatever policy or pathway they want to implement, which is the wrong answer. But I'm just saying, why does it happen? I think that's why it happens.
Thanks for pointing those out. Frank, what about you? What can we do to improve the current situation involving patients?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank Juhi because that is exactly what I saw in the development. The development is now a few years ago, and we had the issue of getting how we call it professional patients, right? So patients who try to make their money by getting into those ad boards. But these are the ones who really care, and those also are educated. But if you look at the treatment of diseases, right, you have to have a spectrum represented in your ad board, and to catch also those who have not that good education, being maybe not even able to sort numbers by their growth. If you look at, there's scientific research on this, and there is a majority of patients, type 2 diabetes in the US, that cannot sort numbers, but dealing with numbers is essential to treat diabetes, right? So how do you help that? So you need to have the right patients at the right time, right? So bring them on, have a good concept. Don't engage too early into your development, right? Before you know, the question is always, which problem am I trying to solve, right? So what is the key of my development? I've seen developments where engineers came up with beautiful ideas, right? It would fit into, right into my lifestyle, right? But when we looked at when we talked to patients, it was totally bogus because their problem was totally different. So understand the patient, and then one thing also, compliance is one of the biggest issue, having patients at the table, right? Paying them, it's all, there's a kind of fair market value, how it's called, for key opinion leaders. But how do you pay a patient, right? They just, if you talk to compliance people, right? Well, come on, it's just a patient, right? And I think that is where we have to work on, and also change the perspective, because they are the key people, not the key opinion leader who got paid a lot of money for just being on the phone and articulating what he thinks the needs of the patients are.
Patricia, I see you want to say something.
Yeah, I want to say you can change the laws. You can change and you can introduce a chief patient officer that it's gonna be paid for this and this. It's like a doctor. A doctor has to put that they have no interest, conflict of interest, and the patients has to be at the same level with this. And you were talking about prems and proms. I think they are very important and it's a big step. But think about the social ROI, the social return of investment. It's I don't know if we are very commonly with the NGOs, but they have to have this social return of investment to be measured. And I think with the patients, it's very useful because you are not only thinking about what the patient need or what the patient thought, it's about the impact in her life about the things we are doing. Because you are talking with the patient, with the family, and what involves everything. Then I think it's a very useful metric to be used in health.
Yeah, thank you. That's even a step further. So I'd like to basically wrap up this panel with some concrete examples. I mean, it's a vast topic, like many of the topics at this conference. But perhaps I'll ask our panel, my fellow panel members, to give us some concrete examples of, what benefits can be obtained by involving patients all along the process. So I'll start again with you, Patricia. Can you give us examples in your current work as a chief patient officer, as a patient yourself, leading patient associations, what kind of results you're seeing and what hospitals and healthcare providers are telling you about your work? And, we really want to hear about this.
Yes, I'm not going to give names, but I think real examples at deployment of some apps that they are things for the patients, and they are work together, co-created with the patients from the beginning. And these apps are very used for all the patients. And on the other hand, we have a technological solution that they use in a hospital. But when the patients and the physicians are using, they say, this is a waste of time. I don't want to introduce this data here because it's not giving any information, any quality information for me, for the patient and for the doctors. Then I think it's clear that when you co-create from the beginning from the patient's point of view and also the physician, because now we are putting all the time the patients, but we don't have to forget that who is using also this technology, because we cannot work in the other side. We have to work all together. For me, this is clear.
Sounds like a guarantee of success, so we should all be focused on this very much. Juhi, what about you? Some concrete examples.
Yeah, sure. And actually wanted to relate it to something Patricia said earlier. She said that, the patient and the doctor have to be on equal footing, and, in order to make shared decisions. And that's actually relating to what I do in the health tech company that I set up, because how are we expected to, or how are patients expected to make informed decisions and give informed consent about a procedure, about a medication, about some sort of treatment, if they don't understand, you know, what the options are and how to weigh up risk and benefit? Those are things that we're used to doing as medics, but actually you need to put it in a way to the patient that they can understand the right information at the right time in their journey and in the right format. So what we do is we co-create very visual health information, because obviously literacy, health literacy is a problem. That's not related to necessarily educational level either. People find it hard to understand written health information. So we create highly visual health information with patients, and we make it culturally appropriate. We translate it, you know, so that we can reach those marginalized groups that maybe, you know, can't understand health information in the same way. And we try to basically make health information more equitable and in a way that they can understand, because only then can they really make shared decisions about their care. Only then will they, you know, adhere better to, you know, medications and have better outcomes. So I think it's really important to involve patients right from the beginning. So right from the concept to the scripting, to the storyboarding, to when it goes to development. We have focus groups and patients involved, and it really does make a difference, to your point about don't just involve them at the beginning, involve them at the end, because what we found is actually we've had to make lots of iterative changes based on feedback, and we're doing that with programs that we're running with NHS trusts in the UK.
Thank you. International studies on what patients understand when they come out of the doctor's appointment are really appalling, and any tools that can facilitate that are more than welcome. What about you, Frank? Some concrete examples in your experience of successful patient involvement?
I'm more on the treatment side there, and when we started and looking at this titration stuff, right? We thought, okay, we had panels, and so where's the problem and things. So we tried to individualize as good as possible, and put it on a blood glucose meter, as it was suggested. And we developed that and made it also already a little bit more flexible, as it was possible at that point in time. So we're talking about a few years back. So we're not right here in the software age right now. And but what we saw when we then did a study was that the acceptance was not that high, although we included already patients. So we went back to the drawing board and looked at it, and unfortunately, the company decided to discontinue this meter and then go for an app instead of going then and just broaden the offer, right? Because then you would cover more patients, right? Because it's not one size fits all. So not everybody runs around with an app and looks every morning at the app, right? There are, for example, type 2s on basal insulin. They have to measure either in the morning or in the or in the evening when they give their dose. And you know, that is the time when you look at the device, and it just has to be there and has to be handy. And you know, if it's not there, then you have no success. And you know, we did this then in studies with questionnaires and trying to get that out and talk back to patients. And that's how we continued, and now there is an app out there that supports this, and I'm very happy. Although I'm no longer with that company, I'm very happy for them that they continue that way.
Point taken. So I think it's time to wrap up, and I'll leave it to you, Patricia. Can you give us either more examples or you know, conclude this session with some words of wisdom for our audience?
Okay, then, as he said, for me it's manage expectations from all the sides of the table. We have to cover all the expectations, and we have to understand that the patient is the expert on her health, and it also has to be the start of the communication. Then you have to work with personalized communication. Then you can use I don't know, videos, or when you are talking to this patient, listen what the patient is saying, not just supposing and thinking about, okay, you want this, you want to be better with your diabetes, or you want this solution. No, you have to listen, actively listen. And I think we are going to arrive and we are going to achieve, and I hope so.
Thank you very much. It's time to wrap up. So remember, listen to the patients, involve them. Perhaps just one little suggestion on a lot of these panels, maybe next year, we can try to involve patients and have at least one patient representative on each panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.